Asset Management. We've also got Brandon Arnold with us, the National Taxpayers Union Executive Vice President. So, Brandon, ended with you. So, begin with you on some of the cost associated with this. For all the record tax increases, it really doesn't foot the entire bill, even on this package, let alone the two others. So, you've got about $6 trillion worth of spending, for which less than a third is actually paid. What do you make of that?
Yeah, we're looking at an enormous debt problem that has already been a major issue for this country. We had to spend over $5 trillion on the COVID pandemic, and now we're looking at deepening that enormous problem with additional spending that, by the way, is accompanied by tax increases that will further slow the economic growth, further slow the recovery that we absolutely need right now. So this is a devastating combination of higher spending and higher taxes that our country simply cannot afford right now. This is the worst time to be raising taxes by trillions and trillions of dollars and exacerbating our debt problem.
You know, when I look at some of the planned spending initiatives, Scott, I'm reminded of that warning coming from investment banks to sort of take all of this in, don't do anything rash. This is advice for investors. What do they expect to hear that we don't know already?
Well, look, Neil, I mean, we know what the mantra of this administration is. And to be fair, a lot of administrations on both sides of the aisle, I mean, the government likes to spend your money, Mr. or Mrs. American taxpayer, and spend money that they don't have yet. And that's the scary thing, to Brandon's point, is that this is going to jeopardize the reopening of the economy, this great, robust economic future that supposedly we have in front of us. I mean, the administration has not even given this economy a chance to reopen and rehire and refire from all the doldrums that we've been in the last year, which were largely government initiated. So before we even get the economy back to the American people, we're just going to tax the heck out of it because we need to pay for all the spending for all these crazy programs. And that's really the upset part of me, is the fact that we could let the economy create the jobs, have people go back to work and get training. The government doesn't need to come in and do that for everybody. We can do that on our own.
You know, what's interesting about all of this, Brandon, is that the American people really approve of this. They like some of these spending initiatives. They don't really care if it's, going to be, maybe adding to deficits, added to the total debt. They're okay with the rich paying for them. I guess, better than the rich than themselves. What do you make of that? The president actually has fairly widespread support. I mean, not off the charts, but more generally favoring than not.
Well, I think the problem here is that people see this as purely a tax increase on the wealthy and on big corporations. The truth is the tax burden is going to fall on everyday Americans much more than they realize. The National Association of Manufacturers did a study that the corporate tax rate increase would lead to the reduction of 1 million jobs. Those aren't going to be corporate C-suite jobs. Those are everyday Americans' jobs. And the higher individual tax rate, well, that might appear to just affect the wealthiest of Americans, but that actually falls upon independent businesses as well. Independent businesses, which are the major job creator in this economy. So it's not just hitting the largest companies and the wealthiest taxpayers. It's going to have a much bigger impact on everyday Americans than I think most people realize. Once people do realize that, I would hope and anticipate that the support for this plan would drop precipitously.
Scott, as you reminded me, the market has been running up with all of these various stimulus plans we've seen. I guess the notion is stimulus is good, no matter how it comes. And I'm wondering if that will still prevail.
It will for a little while. I mean, look, this harkens back to, dare I say, my high school days. Everybody loves the late night party until the parents come home. And in this case, the allegory there is everybody likes the spending and this, anticipation of this great reopening until it's like, oh, my gosh, we've got to actually pay for this. Like there's an adult that's going to come in the room and say this wasn't free, even though the government said it was. And that's really the concern. And with respect to what you asked, Brandon, like, Neil, the psychological damage, though, that the government has done to everybody through this period, which some of it was necessitated, believe me, as far as what we needed to supply the economy just to stay alive and stay open. But now they've got a lot of folks on this dole where it's like, hey, we'll take care of you. We'll pay for this. We'll cover that. We'll tax that rich guy, that businessman, the one who's actually creating the economic growth, creating the jobs for you. I mean, that's really the issue of where we've got everybody kind of hooked on this spending, on this government reliance that's going to be pretty hard to get off of, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're all hooked on this now. Scott, a final word. Brent, I want to thank you as well. Thanks, guys, very, very much. But, you know, to hear a number